Hey, good morning. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here with the free Pain Killerz Challenge, day 12. We're already on day 12. This is, okay, all these I'm going to say this is a biggie, but this is a biggie, and I'm going to make a really bold statement. I'm going to say that if you are experiencing chronic pain in your life right now, there is something in your life you need to let go of from your past or right now because you're still holding on to it, and or there is someone or something in your past or your current situation that you need to forgive. Now, before you send me a bunch of hate mail and argue, listen to what I have to say on this topic. And I will admit, this has been a biggie for me because we all think, I like to think that I am a very kind and forgiving person, but obviously I'm not, and I do hang on to things, and like all of us, we're human beings, we hang on to things that happened decades ago or that we don't even remember happening have an impact on us today, but only if we let them. Unfortunately, by default, we always let them because our subconscious mind picks up on everything and anything around us and saves it and stores it in that massive vault of our mind that is our subconscious. And it serves it up at the most inopportune times to try to protect us, to keep us safe. Our whole, that whole part of our being is, its overriding mission and purpose is to keep us safe as human beings. So if something hurt us in the past, or someone hurt us in the past, or something that we considered bad at the time happened to us, we store all that in our subconscious mind, and it pops up into our conscious mind whenever anything else could possibly threaten us or impact us in a similar way. Not even the same way, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be the same way, just a way that our conscious mind decides is sort of similar, so it goes back and it digs through all the file cabinets and the storage units and pulls up those particular pieces of information. Unfortunately, they usually don't help us, and they have the ability to really, really hurt us. And in my instance, they show up as illness, sickness, and chronic pain. And I contend, and I know it's a bold statement, that that's true for you as well. So one of the quickest, easiest ways to stop that influence, and you know what? It's not the 100% root cause of anyone's pain, but it does negatively impact it. So the purpose of this 30-day Pain Killerz Challenge is to figure out the quick and easy and fastest ways to alleviate and get rid of your chronic pain and my chronic pain. And one of those things I've found is forgiveness and letting things go. Because whether I believe it or not that it's operating in my life, I've proven to myself that it's operating in my life. And when I let go of a particular situation that I might not even think was bugging me, all of a sudden my pain is less. And I'm all for anything that reduces every bit of pain that I possibly can. So, and let me give you a quick example of this and how this worked for me. I got fired from a job once, and it was a really bad time, and I was devastated because I knew for a fact that I was doing an incredibly good job in this particular role. And I got fired for political reasons and personal reasons of my boss, and I blamed myself, and I took that personally, and I took that very, very hard for a while. I want to say a year, but it wasn't really a year because there was so much else going on in my life that impacted that and was part of that. But after that event was resolved, I carried that negative situation and the actual emotional event of how I was fired by this guy with me for a long, long time, like for years, probably 3 or 4 years, until I was listening to some Tony Robbins and he challenged us to pick an event that was still affecting us and then do this exercise, which I'm going to share with you in a minute on it. So I did that. I did the exercise on this, and I let go of and forgave this boss because I was able to understand why he did it and where he was coming from, and that it had nothing to do with me and whether I was doing a good job or not. And so my ego could let it go. But I didn't realize the impact that that was actually having on my health and my level of pain. I had like really bad sinus infections, and I would get sinus infections 3 or 4 times a year that were like knock me out, super bad sinus infections. And after I did this exercise, I have never had another sinus infection. Now, do I have exact direct proof that that is what fixed my sinus infections? No, but it's too big of a coincidence that letting go of that event and everything and all the emotional charge around that, I dissipated that and let that go and forgave the people involved in that, particularly my ex-boss, and I did never get another sinus infection. That, to me, is not a coincidence. That is a cause and effect. And so I didn't really realize it at the time. It wasn't until later when I did some more research following my sudden cardiac arrest that I realized the power of forgiveness and letting things go. So I want to quick share. The technique that Tony Robbins taught me was that you close your eyes and you think about a particular person or situation that has really negatively impacted you or harmed you in the past. And to me, one of the most significant emotional events at the time that I did this exercise was being fired by this boss and how I felt and everything around that. And so what you do, or what Tony challenges you to do, and then what I did is I went and I closed my eyes and I thought about that situation. And what you do is you rewrite and redo that entire situation in your mind, and you play it like a movie in your mind over and over and over again, changing things and making them funny and comical until you get to the point where they have no negative emotional charge for you anymore. So when I first started thinking about this situation, I would get like a 9 or 10 on the stress and anxiety and pain level. I mean, emotional and hurt feelings and pain and feeling worthless and that there was, it was all my fault, to the point where that event has absolutely no emotional charge on me. Now, I can talk about this, and I don't think I seem very emotional about it, but I used to think about it, and I would burst into tears. And I'm like, okay, well, that's definitely having a negative impact on my life. So I did things like I put my ex-boss in a clown suit, and I put the H&R manager in one of those S&M little skimpy outfits because she was a lady. And I blew it up. I had them be talking in funny little voices or little soft, squeaky mouse voices. I did all kinds of things like that to change what that situation looked like and felt like in my mind. And that took care of it for me. That just took that event from a super traumatic event to a non-issue. And I'm going to challenge you to do that today too. I actually did a series of, again, our lives are like roller coasters. They're up and down, and things happen around us that can be really, really stressful. So when I was in a really stressful time, I actually did a series of like 7 or 8 different ways to let things go or to show forgiveness. I wrote things on Post-it notes and then burnt them in a little metal bucket. I wrote things on toilet paper and I flushed them down the toilet. I wrote it on a mirror and then I sprayed foamy stuff and cleaned off the mirror. I wrote it in the sand and let the river wash it away. I did a bunch. I put it on a balloon and let go of the balloon. I suppose that's probably not the best one for the environment, so I shouldn't admit that I did that, but I did it. So shh. But there's all kinds of things you can do like that. But I just want you to try this one thing, and the reason I want you to try this one thing is because there's no excuse not to. All you have to do is have a quiet minute or two and your mind. And you can do this. You don't have to have any special stuff to do this method. And so there's really no excuse to not do it because it has such an ability to make you feel better. So today I want you to think of one of probably the most traumatic or most challenging event that you still have strong negative emotions attached to. Now I would probably say, and I have done this, I've used this exercise on my ex-husband and on my divorce so I could forgive him for some of the stuff he did. And here's the real rub, guys. as you think about this and do this, the biggest, most important person that we have to forgive is ourselves. And that's the hardest person to forgive. So I actually use this exercise and these letting go strategies for like my limiting beliefs, because I have to forgive myself for having limiting beliefs. I don't know where they came from. Remember yesterday we talked about who does this belong to? Guess what? It doesn't even matter if you know who it belongs to. You just have to identify that it doesn't belong to you. And once you do that, you can question it and say, do I want to believe this? And then if you want to, you keep it. And if you don't want to believe it, then you say, no, that doesn't serve me anymore, so I can let that one go. Same with this. Do I want to keep my grudge that I'm holding against my old boss? Is it serving me? Is it helping my life go in the direction I want it to go? If the answer is yes, I can keep feeling that way. I can feel bad as long as I want to. If the answer is no, then I have all kinds of ways and strategies that I can just finally let that go and see how that impacts my body and the way I feel and the amount of pain that I'm feeling in my life. I'll tell you, I'm super grateful to not have sinus infections anymore. They were miserable. They were terrible. And they definitely impacted my daily life and my work life. So that's it today. I challenge you to pick that emotion, pick that event, replay that event in your mind as many times as you have to remove the negative emotional charge. I'll admit that boss one, I probably had to replay and change that 20 times in my mind to get it to the point of 0. The first couple times I tried it, it went from like a 10 to an 8. And then there were sometimes it stayed at an 8. And then there were other things I did to change that memory that brought it down to a 4. But I had to do it over and over again until it had no emotional charge for me, no negative emotional charge. Because now I can kind of laugh about it, because when I think about it, I can't even get back to seeing the way I first perceived it actually happening. That's an important statement. The way I first felt or perceived when it happened. Because it's like when things happen to us as a child, my 5-year-old self reacts to something very different than my 57-year-old self. And so does my 57-year-old self really need to be hanging on to all of the emotions of an event that happened to me as a 5-year-old? Some things, yes. You know, if it's getting hurt by putting my hand on the hot stove, yeah, I should keep remembering that lesson and not do that. And I should keep that event. But if it is something as silly as somebody told me they didn't like my pedal pushers that day, yeah, I think I can let that go. So today's challenge, pick that event, do it. And then comment below how many times you had to run that through in your mind before it really had a big impact on the emotional charge that you felt with that event. That's it for today. Go out, make it an awesome day. Be loving, love being, be you, and I will see you tomorrow with day 13 of the Free Pain Killerz challenge, because we're going to kill your chronic pain just like we're killing mine. Bye.